Just loosening up the old vocal cords for season 2 of the Integrateness podcast with Jason and Jolene. I'm Jason. She's Jolene. Welcome back to another season of us.
Oh, have you missed us? We have missed you.
We have, and we apologize because we did promise a summer episode that actually never materialized, which was our fault on that end.
It was, but we just, you know what we love about this podcast is it will define itself, and that episode did not define itself.
It did not.
We didn't push it.
No, we didn't. We tried a few times. Jolene's summer was busy. Mine was busy. And then we went through wildfire hell at about the time we were thinking of trying to squeeze one in before summer came to an end. And well, that just didn't happen. So.
Yeah. So here we go. Season 2.
Yes. Now, how was your summer?
Why? So that's what we're going to spend our time talking about. Pivot.
Pivot.
That is today's episode because Jason and I both felt like we had a lot of that to do this summer. So I'll talk about mine, Jason.
Yeah, go
you
for
can
it.
Talk about yours. Yeah. So my summer was, we were saying it was very full. It was fun. We got to do a lot of things, but there was a lot of very scheduled flow of everything, if that even makes sense. Scheduled flow, right?
I like that.
Yeah. I had my kids most of the time. I maximized my work days, which meant I went in, put my head down, worked the entire time, and then would blast out. And when I wasn't at work, I was not at work. I was with my kids. So I really maximized that. We spent a lot of time out at the lake and boating and being at the cabin and doing those kinds of things until my cousin's cabin burned in the fires at the Shuswap, which was very tragic and sad. So prior to that, things were really fulfilling. They were lovely. Some other things that I was juggling during this time was a new relationship that I've been in. We talked about that a little bit last season. And just what that looks like. We are dating long distance. So I have my full-time life here and he has a full-time life there. And we are making room for each other and where we can within our careers and our families and just navigating that whole shift of things as well. So that was a big one for me. My personal life felt very demanding in different ways. I was saying to Jason, I felt like work and demands there, which is new referrals and lots of exciting stuff as well, was asking for 70% of me. And my personal life was asking for about 70% of me too. But that was 140%. And then usually I like to put about 20% to me. That's what I really started to chisel out the last few years for myself. And that part kind of felt like it disappeared. So I was really happy to kind of be back in the flow of things, have my kids back in school, have different childcare options because I let go of my Pilates for a couple of months because I didn't have the space and I wasn't in town on weekends and I didn't want to be inside. I'm an outside summer gal. So I just put it on pause. But I was really grateful to be back now that September is here because that emotionally, energetically is so beneficial to me and physically, right? So we'll talk a little bit about that and even just the physical changes of being in a safe, healthy relationship. I was telling Jason, I was like, I fucking gained 15 pounds just feeling safe. What's this bullshit?
Your body is, for one, not in a constant state of waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Yeah.
And so you relax.
Yeah.
And when you relax, and you kind of eat a bit more, and you loosen the rules on having drinks. If you're not exercising, then it's I'll compensate with liquor.
For sure.
Cookies or, you know what I mean?
I had no social life for the last few years, so it was really easy for me not to go out for dinner. And that's one of the things that, we would enjoy when we first started dating was let's go somewhere for dinner, right? We'd go somewhere for the night or whatever, right? So yeah, allowing myself to indulge in good foods that I probably restricted for a long time, right? I was very mindful about my nutrition and my physical health. So really looking at the shift of balance through all of those things and how to allow for space of everything without things falling out of balance. But I definitely felt like some things were just demanding so much more of me. And I was like, there isn't more of me. What's happening? So it felt very pressured that way. But I don't want that to be a negatively perceived thing because it was just, it was a lot. And I'm grateful that there was a lot because they were all really good things,
It's what's that phrase, that embarrassment of riches?
Yeah.
And when you've been through a period when you haven't had that, and suddenly you do, it's fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
And I feel like that's a bit of it. Like there's just been this like total abundance of things, right? And I mean, I never want to complain about having constant flow of work. That's my job security. That's how I raise my kids. I need an income, right? So I'm always careful to when I reflect on how demanding my referrals are, because I've asked for that in my business. I've manifested that in my business. And, you know, when I look at money and love being on the same frequency energetically, when one is flowing, the other's going to be flowing. And it's just like, I opened the doors to this, like, here we go, like the ultimate receiving, right? So really trying to recalibrate to all of that at the same time. Yeah.
There's something one of the Stoics used to, because I'm a big follower of Stoic philosophy, and it was Marcus Aurelius, who, you know, he was an emperor of Rome, and he had a lot of responsibilities, and he was kind of rushing about one day, and some woman came up to him saying, I need you to help me with this, please. And he's like, sorry, I don't have time. And then she's like, well, then why are you emperor?
Whoa.
And he stopped, and he's like, you're right. And he went and helped her with the problem, then went about the rest of his day. But if you take the job, and the job doesn't have to just be the job, but if you've asked for something in your life, and you get it, then don't be pissed off if it becomes demanding.
You sound like my child. Mom. Just kidding. It was like, why'd you decide to be a mom then?
No, but it's true.
Yeah.
Like, but you know what I mean? It's all that stuff. You take on the role, so you do the work.
It is. It
right?
very much is. Oh, man. Jason, how about you? Give a little rundown of your summer.
Yeah, mine was busy too. Because God, I'm trying to think when the last time we recorded was. May?
Yeah,
May.
you hadn't done your swap yet.
No, so after that, basically, I finished up like a couple big projects that I was doing for work. Like I went and did an Ogopogo documentary and got to be interviewed for a Bigfoot documentary, because I do that kind of stuff, which was exciting because it was with people whose work I've admired in that field for a long time. So to be invited along and to be a part of it, because they were in Canada, they're out of the States, was pretty fucking cool. And what was really cool about that too is, you know, when you kind of admire people who you've never met and you meet them and they turn out to be assholes and you're really disappointed? These people weren't. They were all awesome.
I was like, oh no, where's this going?
But it wasn't. They were all... I didn't get to meet all of them or talk to all of them as much as others. Like Eli Watson and I worked together a lot because we did the Ogopogo documentary. Then I went and met everybody else. And I got to hang out with a few of them regularly. But they were all really cool people. And I've been in touch with a lot of them since. And that was a great experience, because like right after that I came back, and because some of my work had dried up, I had to go back landscaping for the summer, which is a lot. And it wasn't like just the mowing lawns and the raking and the pruning. I did brick and block construction. So Allen block walls, patios, stairs, all that stuff, which was a lot harder to do at 50 than it was the last time I did it. And it was, for one thing, like, you know how, Jolene, you talk about masculine and feminine energy, and I've been doing yoga, which is more of a feminine energy. To be back in an environment doing manual labor, like with guys, I needed that masculinity. That was really cool. The guy I work with, Craig, like he's around my age. He loves his mountain biking, his movies, his books. Like he's a super sharp guy. So we had tons of really interesting conversations. We had a similar sense of humor, and we worked really fucking hard. And that was really cool.
Very rewarding.
Very rewarding, until I blew my sciatic nerve out towards the middle of August, and I couldn't.
Yeah.
I couldn't work anymore.
That was when summer came to a screeching halt, though. Hey,
that happened about the same time that all the fires broke. Like, it was really interesting, because I remember when the fires started, myself, Peter, and Olivier doing our paranormal stuff. We were doing presentations at O'Keefe Ranch, and we saw this, like the smoke came in from those, not only that fire, but the West Bank fire.
Yeah, you had your overnight thing that weekend.
We had our overnight thing that weekend, right? So that all happened, and it was during that overnight thing that the sciatic, like I'd heard it at work, and then it just flared up over that weekend. But it was a sign, like I had pushed myself really far, because I was doing manual labor and then trying to do my other stuff on the side, and then still be, you know, a husband and a father and still maintain some kind of friendship with people, which I couldn't, because I was by the time I worked, I was exhausted. Yeah. Right? And so finally something broke, and my counselor, Alicia, who we've mentioned before, I was in her office talking to her about the sciatic pain and not sure what I should do, if I should keep working and just fight through it to the end of season or not. And she looked at me and she said, at what point does your work ethic take a back seat to your self-care? Because I couldn't even sit. Like, you know, when you can't, it hurts so bad you can't even sit properly. And I'm moving, and I was just like, you're right. And so that was basically it.
Wow.
And that was actually a lot harder to do than I thought it would be, because I pride myself on being a hard worker and being honest and loyal and fulfilling my obligations. And to have to tell them that I was done sucked.
So close to the end too.
So like literally I had like I think 6 weeks to go anyways, but the recovery time from sciatic is about 4 to 6 weeks.
But I bet you it was less once you gave in and gave yourself what you needed. It started to improve.
It started to improve. Yeah, it did. It did, right? And so it's one of those lessons. It was a life lesson, and now I'm kind of really learning to work smarter, not harder, if that makes sense. And now, so we don't have that extra money, but we're learning to live tighter. And I'm not taking on as many other projects. Like we've found as a family found a means to live within. And we're just going to live within that. And if opportunities come up, sure, you take it. But otherwise, I've got my things that I do. And then the rest is taking care of myself and family time.
And it's cool because that job was inspired by the money. It was propelled by the money, but you gained so much more than a paycheck from that. And it's almost like that part of that job was done for you.
It was. It's
right?
Everything. We've talked about this before. Believer in everything happens for a reason, and everything happens when it's supposed to happen. So I needed to go back to work and do that to learn all these lessons. And I got sort of more of appreciation, for my family who I didn't see every day after working from home for years. Like you learn what's important and what's not.
Yeah, and I imagine being that physical in a way that was work related instead of exercise related or physiotherapy related. Go back and listen to last season's episode on trauma being stored in the body, right? Like when the body keeps score. There's so much that gets processed out through all of that. Like there's emotions. You're in your head a lot of the day. You wouldn't even, you probably can't even go back and be like, I remember what I was thinking about that day, because your mind's just looping and going and clearing and processing through so much while you're going block after block after block, right?
Oh, you are. Like there's days that I moved 9,000 pounds of bricks.
Wow. You're badass, Jason.
Right? Like just carrying in the hands and stepping up on a wall and putting it and handing it to Craig, who'd do the really finite work, 'cause he's skilled at it. So I was the brick hauler guy or the shoveler of dirt or of rock, or you know what I mean? And so it was really cool. And one of the things I really liked, I got to drive the big dump truck a lot.
Oh, that's fun.
And by the end of the season, I could park that fucker anywhere. Whereas at first, you're like, I don't want to wipe out things, you know what I mean? But you get really good at it. It was a really good, humbling, confidence-boosting thing. But it had its time and its place.
Very cool. I had one of those moments this morning because I had to take my boat in to get it winterized. I did it last year in my driveway, and I didn't want to do that again this year. And I hooked it up all by myself, got it out. It's just you feel accomplished when you have those moments.
You do. When you think, like in a couple weeks, instead of taking the truck to like the auto mechanic to get the brakes done, my buddy Trav can do it. He's just going to show me how to do it. I'm going to do it myself. He'll walk me through it. I just want to do more of that. That's for one. When you're trying to watch your budget, do you want to spend $1,200 or $200?
Yeah.
So you teach yourself how to do things. And doing that summer of work really got that imprinted in my head. Like, do it yourself.
And for you, being a man, asking another man for help in an area that's not your wheelhouse, that can be tricky. A lot of guys will say that. I have a lot of clients I work with that are just, that asking for help from another guy can be such a hard thing. But man, can it ever create connection? And like that healthy masculine connection is so lacking in our society. And that's like what you gained at work, right?
Too, yeah, big time. Like that, and you're right, that is lacking. There's a whole big push against masculinity in general right now, but it's important. And I was actually listening to someone today. It was about a guy talking about why Jordan B. Peterson is so popular among men, but why other groups don't like him. Mm-hmm. And it's because he's promoting that it's okay to have masculinity. Mm-hmm. And he talks about when regular masculinity is gone, it manifests itself in other unhealthier ways, which people don't want to hear about. Yeah. That's where the toxic masculinity comes from.
Absolutely. And over-masculated women. I'm putting my hand up here, guys. Women who have to step into that. We need polarity in this world, right?
Yeah.
And in order for women to feel safe, we actually need masculine men.
Yeah.
Healthy masculine men.
And healthy masculine men need healthy women who are women.
Yes. You don't want me hauling 9,000 pounds of brick. Like, no. I am better doing other things.
Right? And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
In a world where people seem to think there's something wrong with that.
Yeah, so. Exactly. I can go park my boat, but I don't need to drive the dump truck.
No.
Right?
No, and I would not want to back up a boat.
Oh man, funny story. I busted the prop on my boat this summer. I wasn't even drunk. I was just stupid in the moment, guys. Like, I don't even have a good story. But it was funny because I should post that on our page, actually. There's a hilarious picture of me. My friend and I changed the prop out one day at the lake. And I ordered one off of Amazon, and it came with like a captain's hat. Yeah, the prop came with the captain's hat. It was priceless.
Actually, I saw the.
So did you see
I saw
that
the
picture?
on your
Wasn't
social
that
media? Yeah,
so
that was
hilarious?
wild. Yeah.
That's so hilarious. Anyways, I laughed. So yeah, there's moments where we can excel in some of those areas, but I don't want to have to be there all the time, right? And my life requires me to be there a lot of the time. We're actually going to talk about that this season. I've had a lot of requests from my clients talking about sexuality in our relationships, sexual connections with our partners over the years, in beginning phases, whatever stages that it is, but just healthy sexuality in relationships. So those are some things we're going to dive into that Jason and I are even referencing right now, just based on polarity and men feeling like they're in a healthy masculine and women feeling like they can be in a healthy feminine without being shamed or judged or, feel like they're moving against feminist movements or whatever this be, right? I'm laughing though, Jason, because you said that you were laying brick and a bunch of that stuff. And if you guys can look to the side of the desk we're at right now, Jason has like little like micro mini Lego. And I was like, whoa. So is this your return to work plan that you'll start with micro
blocks that I can actually lift and almost lose between my two fat fingers. That's something that I started actually at Christmas. I can't remember if I mentioned that last season or not. Is when I was a kid, all kids build Lego. And I had in like the late 70s, early 80s, it was a space Lego Galaxy Explorer that they reissued last fall that my wife got me for Christmas, that I got for Christmas when I was 8. So I built that. And since then, I've been slowly getting back into building Lego. And I'm finding for me, like I have a workbench that was supposed to be for all like my work equipment and stuff like that for ghost hunting and writing and putting notes out. But it's become my Lego table. So when I have a moment where I just can't do things anymore, I just go sit at the table and I fuck around with the bricks and I build stuff. And I mean, I've got a whole set there. It's like the Daily Bugle, from Spider-Man, which is like, it's going to be like 3 feet tall and 2 feet wide with all the characters and all that.
I have a client who ordered that last year and put it together.
It looks, I can't wait.
$200 or something?
Oh, more.
More? 300?
Yeah, probably like 3 to 4.
Sorry, Jess, don't listen to this episode.
But I can't, and I'm saving it for winter when the weather gets really crappy.
Yeah.
Because that's how I'm going to pass my afternoons.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and also what you guys don't know that's changed is Jason has a stand-up desk for us. So I am going to have neck problems after recording because the microphone is so high that I feel like I'm trying to reach over the counter to buy candy or something. So all of these things, you have us standing on our feet. We're caring for our bodies at the same time. And honestly, so like we were talking about episodes we want to start running and like where we're at the end of this summer, who we are as individuals, what we're bringing to the podcast. And, for me, my intentions have always been to deliver the most helpful information that you guys need in the present day moment, just to help you achieve your greatness and to help you live with more satisfaction and joy and pleasure in your life, to put puzzle pieces together to make life a little less mysterious for you and to normalize this entire process of life. Like life is the messy part. It's the in-between. It's never the final goals that we get to. It's the process. So that is always my intention with this podcast. So I very just intuitively connect with the collective that follows us, that follows my professional work in my therapy work. And that's the kind of stuff I'm going to be continuing to bring to the podcast. So hopefully that works for you guys. If not, then go somewhere else.
Don't like it, then fuck off.
I dare you. I dare you.
And my thing, I think for me, it always kind of has been because I'm a guy who is sharing stuff and guys aren't supposed to. And so I always feel the more open that men in particular, I think, because men's mental health is really everyone's mental health takes a beating, but men have had a real tough time because we're not, as a gender, we don't feel we can express ourselves unless maybe it's just other men around. And even then you're opening yourself to ridicule. So I see this as a venue to do that, to share my experiences in hopes that, say, other men and other people in general just aren't afraid to talk about whatever is afflicting them mentally at the time or emotionally, because it's important. The more we hide these things, the worse the problem gets society-wise, the more we're all open to talking about it and everything's out in the open, the more comfortable people get and the more it stops being demonized, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And I love that you say that, Jason, because I have a ton of respect for you for that. And I really admire that because for me, this is my jam. It's what I talk about regularly. It's my day in, my day out, right? And, people, I think when they listen to us, they're so comfortable with you sharing your story. I think people forget you're an average dude who's sharing this stuff sometimes for the first time, often for the first time, right?
And I'm not a qualified certified counselor or anything like that. I'm just a guy.
You're just a qualified weirdo.
Yeah, exactly.
Great.
Exactly.
It's great.
Exactly.
We both are. Only one of us gets letters behind their name for it.
Exactly. I have no letters behind my name.
Oh.
And with that, folks, we are wrapping up season 2, episode 1 of the Integrateness podcast. We're back next week, just in time for Halloween, to talk about, and we're not going to be able to tell you every week what's coming up next week, but we've already figured out that next week we're talking about the scaries in life.
Yeah, the things that scare the shit out of us. It's Jason's jam.
It is. Love the scary stuff. So until then, I'm Jason.
I'm Jolene.
We'll talk again next week.